You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast. What's going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make some more cash this year. Today on the show, we're talking about martial arts studios, fitness studios, really just like monetizing things that you are good at and passionate about with my good friend, Aaron Hensley. Aaron ran 24 martial arts schools across 6 states at one point, sold that in 2022, and now he's relaunching back into that world. So before we jump into this conversation, if you're tuning in, you're wondering how I build relationships with people on this show and on my other show, it's actually ironically through the shows themselves. So that's helped me grow my network like crazy, build an audience, grow a personal brand, sharpen expertise. And then if you're committed over the long run, it can actually pay you money to do all of that stuff. So for anybody interested running a 7, 8, 9-figure business already and looking to add a podcast into that, I am taking on a couple one-on-one podcast coaching clients for a little bit. TravisChappell.com/coaching. There's an application there. Fill that out. See if it might be a good fit to get your podcast out into the world or to improve or fix your existing podcast and grow that one. So TravisChappell.com/coaching. Aaron, what's up, dude? Welcome to the show.
Come on, boss. You got that down pretty good.
You know what? I've said it once or twice in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Actually, probably about 40 times, but yeah.
Yeah, got it down. Speaking of which, do you like that flavor right there?
Dude, this is, for those listening, I'm drinking a Welch's grape juice Ghost. It is my favorite energy drink on the planet. It literally but I also drank a lot of Welch's grape juice as a kid. So that's super nostalgic.
I think we might be close in age.
I'm 32.
Oh no, we're not close in age. I'm way older than you. Never mind. Then.
Wait, what? Define way older though.
12 years.
Okay, that's not way older. Not as it relates to like big things like.
Well, that's what I was curious because when the flavor came out, everyone was like, "You can't find it." I was looking for it, which is great marketing, by the way, right?
Oh yeah.
And then it's nostalgic because it definitely reminded me of childhood. And I was curious with different generations. My son's about to be 17. And he didn't like it. And I was like, well, he never had anything grape flavored ever before until this thing. He tried it, whatever. So.
I think that's definitely the case. It tastes so similar to Welch's grape juice. And I was a big fan of that growing up. It was that was one of those things that I was disillusioned by when I became an adult, when I realized that juice wasn't good for you.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I was sold a lie. Like growing up, you're like, oh, it's fruit. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, actually it's like the equivalent of eating 6 bunches of grapes in 1 cup. And that's why it's bad, because you still get that same blood sugar spike from the juice itself. So that was one of those unfortunate adulthood things that I've had to cut out of my life that I miss a little bit.
Well, I had that with cereal. I used to love just eating cereal, like honeycomb or something like that,
Addict,
and then I'm like, that's just stuff's like junk, but I'm like, every so often,
Yeah, we just look at it like dessert now.
Yeah, 100%.
If we have cereal, it's never like for breakfast. Right. It's like post-breakfast snack instead of a pancake or something. Yeah. It's like breakfast is eggs and like things that are actually nutritious. And then like afterwards, I can have a bowl of Lucky Charms for dessert,
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, let's jump into some money conversation, bro. I love the story. I love the stories of people who get really good at something and then figure out how to monetize it and then figure out how to scale it afterwards. And those are my favorite side hustles. And I talk about that a lot on the show, is like the best way to have a side hustle is if it checks off these boxes. If it helps you learn more about something you're interested in learning about, you can earn money in the meantime while you're doing it. And if you enjoy it and you get to the point where it's making good money, you can also leave your full-time job and scale it infinitely and then at some point exit it and get a payday, which is exactly what you did. So let's go back in time a little bit. Talk to me about what you were doing before you did the martial arts studios.
Nothing. So basically, since the day I was born, my dad got me into martial arts. He started when he was 13.
Okay.
By the way, when he was doing martial arts, schools didn't really exist. Like, people don't understand, martial arts didn't come here until World War II. So like, it's still new to America. So our military brought it back over. And so professional schools, the first professional school didn't open until late 70s.
Wow.
So it's still a new genre, so to speak. And I know, in Vegas, we have the UFC Center, and UFC's become this big thing, and martial arts is in all the movies. But it's still fairly new as far as a concept as a business. And so my dad was into it, backyard training. Bruce Lee was his hero. It was his hobby. He got pretty good at it. He ended up earning his black belt from a guy named Chuck Norris.
Your dad did?
Right. And really? At the time, people, Chuck didn't even make his first movie at this time. So, and then so he was one of his first black belts. Matter of fact, I'm Aaron Hensley, named after Chuck's brother, Aaron Norris. That's how
really?
right?
That's funny.
Fast forward, I ended up being the youngest person as
Real quick before
yeah.
you fast forward there, what martial arts specifically was it that your dad got his black belt in first?
So Mr. Norris was in the Air Force and he studied Taekwondo and Tang Soo in Korea when he was stationed in Korea. So he
Okay.
comes back, becomes a world champion. And so Tang Soo, which is a Korean art of self-defense. Taekwondo is the sport of it. Tang Soo is the self-defense art. And basically, Chuck started cross-training with Bruce Lee and other people. And he took Tang Soo as a base and then added to it his flair, his style. And it was just called Chuck Norris Karate for a while. Eventually, they retitled it multiple different times, but it's his personal signature style. And I ended up being the youngest kid to ever earn the black belt under Chuck Norris. That record's been way beaten now that kids do martial arts, but at the time I was 12. Youngest master at the time under Chuck Norris. I ran the team for him. I'm currently 7-3 black belt in that organization. My son, there's actually in Vegas, by the way, a tournament where Mr. Norris puts a tournament on here, and it's called the Norris Cup, and it travels down forever wins it. I think 40 something years it's been in existence. My father's won it. I've won it multiple times, and my son was the youngest ever in history to win it, and we're the only three-generation family to ever do that. That's
Wow,
pretty awesome.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. How old's your son?
He'll be 17 this year.
Okay, great, man.
He's
That's fun.
traveling to California next week to compete at a big event next week, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
But so I
There was
graduated high
never
school.
another option for you,
Yeah,
basically.
that's what I was about to say. So I graduated high school actually early at 15 because I was traveling for karate tournaments and I wanted to graduate early, and so I was able to do that. Started college young. Met a girl in high school age, and we dated for 5 years. Thought we were going to get married. She was at Georgia Tech. I was at University of Miami. The long distance thing wasn't working. So I dropped out of school, moved to Atlanta. We tried to make the relationship work. And basically, I just was questioning like career path, what I want to do. And I was going to do anything but martial arts because, well, that's what my dad wanted to do. He eventually figured out how to do it full time. I just didn't like anything else that I ever attempted to look at.
Hmm. Yeah, I was
Um,
going to say, what were you going to school for when you were there?
Actually, so Aaron, Chuck's brother, is the film director from most of his films and for the Walker Show.
Oh, really?
And he inspired me to go to film school. That was my
Okay.
first love. I like being creative in general.
Yeah.
And but what I realized when I was in film school at University of Miami is like, of course, now the world's a little different with technology. We can do it with our phone now, but like I was still learning on a crank camera type system, you know.
Hmm.
I realized I wasn't gonna have creative freedom right off the bat, and if I don't have control, I just don't want to do it, you
Yeah.
know.
That's
And
that entrepreneur in you for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And so, but I remember having this conversation with my fiance at the time, where she was like, you know what, I just don't think karate is gonna bring the lifestyle that I really want to live. And
Red flag.
yeah, well, I mean, but when you're young, you're like, oh, I'll do whatever for you.
Yeah.
And I just nothing, what I learned about martial arts was like doing it because of the way I was raised and the life I lived. I was always kind of, the misfit, the outlier.
Hmm.
And martial arts gave me a belonging and it made me feel bigger than just me. And also gave me the ability to work hard at something that I could get a reward from. So if I put in extra time, it rewards me.
Yeah.
Maybe why I like the entrepreneurial world as well too,
Yeah. Yeah. You get rewarded for the effort that you put in.
1000. And which is why I didn't like team sports so much because I could bust my butt and someone not, and I pay their price for them.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so, I eventually realized that I was a miserable person because not only doing martial arts fed my soul, giving back to people was really my like love language.
Hmm.
And so being on the floor was therapy. Teaching people is therapy for me. And and so I left that relationship, went back home, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And basically, I just started putting my effort as now if I'm gonna do it, how do I become the best to ever do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I screwed that up for about 10 years until I got serious.
Yeah.
So like, that's the whole
I decided to become the worst to ever do it first.
yeah,
And
right.
then, yeah.
It,
Right.
but well, and it's because like I remember actually one time when I was opening my first school on my own. So I partnered with my dad for a while, and we had a really big company, and then I wanted to do my own thing. And and so like I remember opening my first school, and when I was trying to partner with different like business coaches in the martial arts space, I was always asking the dumbest questions that because I was ignorant to what I should ask, which is
Sure.
like, are you going to honor my rank in your organization? Are you like, do you not know who I am? That type thing.
Yeah.
Not thinking about that don't matter to the client. That only matters to me, really.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I just didn't know what to ask, so I'm asking ignorant questions.
Yeah. Like you could be somebody who does not have a black belt and you
Yeah,
could open a chain of facilities and be more successful than somebody who does have a black. Like that is something that does not
100%.
matter to being successful in the business side.
Correct. On the business side. And so like it took me a while and basically I became successful in spite of myself because I basically realized that I was overwhelmed on some when I was getting intentional about the business and now everything's on, on my shoulders. I just realized that there's certain things I don't like when it comes to business. And why don't you like something typically? Because you're not good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not good at it because you don't understand it. And so like the word sales freaked me out because we attach selling in martial arts to selling out,
Yeah.
right? Giving up the art.
Right.
And so I was like, I don't even want to touch that. And so the only way I became successful was because I was so good at teaching and connecting with people that basically I was selling ultimately me,
Yeah.
people around me. And I go from launching a soft startup basically, right, of like a part-time little thing with 30 people. 12 months later, no staff, just me. I've got 300
Hmm.
and making real money for the first time in my life.
How old were you and what would you define as real money?
So this was 20, I was 29 maybe or so. I mean, uh, so when I had those 30 members and like basically not in business yet, but kind of starting, like my gross for the year was like uh under 100,000. My take home
Yeah.
was like 35,000 or something like that.
Yeah, but I want to ask that question because I think it's really relevant for people that are listening
Oh, for
because
sure. Yeah,
everybody defines like real money differently. And when you're at the beginning stage of your career, defining real money looks much, much, much different than it does when you're at the
sure.
later stages of your career or like in the middle of your career, which you are now. Like that standard gets higher and higher as you go, but you got to start somewhere.
For sure.
And that first notch in the belt is such a belief builder that whoa, this is possible. If I just keep doing this thing, I might be able to do this and then double it and then triple it because I didn't think I could ever get here.
100% true on that. I think the first year I grossed, like I said, I didn't have a staff, it was just me. I think I grossed in the business like 600K, 250 in my pocket, from going from 35 to that. And the town I lived in, the average family income, not individuals, $55,000.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I felt rich basically.
Of course. Yeah.
Um,
You're the big fish in the small pond.
yeah. And then, of course, that adds problems because I'm hiring my first staff member. I don't even know what to do with that. And then success brings a whole new level of challenges and problems and not knowing what to do with it. And I've squandered so much money just not knowing what to do, you
Which is
know?
another great point to bring up. Something I say on the show a lot is money only solves your money problems. And then you're left over with all the problems that money can't solve. But it's a mistake to think that money's going to solve all your problems. It's not. It's just going to bring you a new set of problems to solve.
And it will highlight your problems too. Like it will shine a big old flashlight on them sometimes because you think, like I said, money will solve it. And so I struggled basically for honestly to about 2017. So I like really kind of got going like 2009 basically. And from there to 2017, I was a yo-yo in business. I would throw stuff at the wall. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And what really happened was is I thought once I started passing that $1 million threshold, making good take-home pay, having a staff, I thought the next play was, well, then I got to have multiple locations, right? Like
Mm.
the ego play for karate people is how many students do you have? How big is your place? How many schools do you have? And so I had a lot of students and had a big place, making good money. Um, but a lot of times it's a measurement contest, right? It's just like,
Yeah.
always getting together and it's like, and you play into that because as a kid growing up, see my dad didn't do this professionally until I was a till 12, 13-year-old kid. He was laying carpet. That's real work, right? Less
Yeah.
labor, you
Right.
know? Then you go teach part-time at night at a Y, like burn the clock all the time.
Right.
And so I don't know any other work ethic than what my example of what my parents did. And so, like I recognized in those years what I was doing is I was playing the ego game
Mm.
because I would be around, as a kid, all these karate guys talking about, I got X amount of students, I got this or that. And to me, that was the measurement
Yeah. Yeah.
because I didn't understand business, right? And I was getting a lot of great advice. And so I get to three schools, making the exact same amount of money when I had one. times the amount of problems, you know?
Right, right.
And I'm like, I was just miserable. I got to the point where it's like, I literally hated my life. I just
Yeah.
didn't know, like I'm giving so much back to people, working so hard. I got no me involved anymore. And most people, I think at that point just give up. And I felt like that. And what I decided to do was like, you know what? You can kind of reinvent yourself at any time. I sold those two off and says, I'm going to now learn how to be a business owner from non-karate people.
Mm,
So I was learning business from successful karate people, which is good and great to do, but I was outgrowing them
yeah, yeah.
or I had outgrown them. But because of my respect for them and the hierarchy that martial arts kind of preaches and teaches, I never felt that it was appropriate for me to do that
Mm,
until I hit a breaking point. And then started really diving into, reading, listening and stuff. And I was already doing that. Rewind. Here's the greatest gift my dad ever did for me. Okay. Accidentally even. My dad was not a highly educated man, but freaking hard worker, still is to this day. He's about to be 67. The man will outwork me. He owns actually a martial arts company that's a manufacturer now. And
okay.
like to this day, like he cannot stop. 7 days a week, just can't stop.
Yeah,
During COVID, he has a stroke. The doctor says, "Hey, you can't do anything for a while." 2 days later, he strips down his bathroom to the all the way to the subfloor, rips the subfloor out. And 2 days after a stroke during COVID, when like it's just,
can't help it. Can't help it.
I'm 7 years old. We're driving in a car. Every Friday, Saturday, we'd go to a karate tournament, drive somewhere. And my dad, trying to be a better man, would listen to a cassette tape series back when those existed. And the cassette tape series was How to Raise Positive Children in a Negative World by Zig
Mm,
Ziglar. And then Awaken the Giant Within, Tony Robbins. My dad was into, self-growth, self-discovery, self-help before it was a big genre.
yeah,
And I'm 7. We don't have devices, we don't have the Game Boys at this time or anything like that. So I'm just no headphones. I have to listen.
yeah.
And I'm basically just getting programmed and was confused when I go back to school on Monday why they didn't know all the stuff that I knew.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
But it was really like planting the seed for just wanting to continually improve and work towards a better version of who I can be.
So when you compressed down to the one studio again,
Yeah.
how long until you decided, okay, I think I'm ready to give this scaling thing another shot? Because this is a really big lesson, bro. Because I think a lot of people actually, ironically, me and you met at a Cardone event. I remember one of the first time I had Grant on my show, he was talking about why people think so small. And he's like, don't take your advice from a quitter. If somebody like tried to expand to get really big and then they got smacked, they're gonna automatically compress, and then they're gonna give you advice based on their experience and tell you like, oh, you shouldn't go that big. I tried that once and it didn't work out. And it's like
Yeah.
you could have easily just stayed small, kept the one studio, and been like, this is just what I'm gonna do. What was the switch that made you go, you know what? I think I'm gonna give this scaling thing another try.
And I'm so glad you said that because someone told me that yesterday.
Oh, really?
Okay. Because I'm in a rebirth right now, actually, right? And
Yeah.
so, um, great question, by the way, because the two people that told me, hey, just stick to this one school, you can make a lot of money and just be happy and keep an easier life was my mom and dad.
Mm,
Um, and so, and as a parent, they weren't trying to kill my dream or anything like that. They were trying to protect me,
absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Great
I didn't
point.
see it. I didn't see it that way at the time. I saw them as like, oh, like you don't think I can do this? You know what?
Yeah. You don't
It's
believe in
really
me,
tragic.
Dad.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I started. Matter of fact, my first grant book was 2017. Be Assess or Be Average. And that was the first time I was really like, I've seen him kind of a couple times on YouTube, but then didn't really like him. But what happened was in that book is I was listening to it on a trip for a karate event somewhere with my staff, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, it's the first time someone's speaking business, and they sound like me.
Mm.
They're not trying to talk over you. Like it felt this is Uncle G type thing. Like it felt
Yeah,
like
this
someone
isn't
I knew.
like this isn't a Harvard MBA
Exactly.
talking to me about like their privileged background
Right.
and yeah, like giving me a path that I can't follow.
I listened to that book, and by the way, I still listen to that book at least once a year.
Mm,
It's to me, it's my favorite. I like it way better than 10X. Uh, any book of his is really my favorite. And so that's really like that year was kind of a pivotal point because what happened was I recognized, and I still have to remind myself of this. I was like, fear kicked in. What you're talking about, fear kicked in. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe I should do this. But I just knew that if anyone could figure this out, I have the perfect scenario. I have martial arts pedigree. I have great teaching ability. I need to learn how to teach the teachers. I need to teach my staff like I teach the students. And so I was like, I need to connect differently is all I got to do. And then I can grow this thing as big as I want to. And then so what I did later that year, in front of a convention I was speaking at with my peers, I told everyone there, I only had one. I said, I'm going to own 10 locations before I'm 40. And I was 37 at the time, I believe. 18 months later, I had 11.
Hmm.
I went from 1 to 11 in 18 months.
Wow.
Because what happened was, uh, when I told that, people started reaching out to me and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling." Um, and then basically stuff started kind of almost falling to me. Opportunities was coming to me. Um, and of course, way different challenge running one and running 11, like massively different experience. And I didn't worry about income. I was basically reinvesting as fast as I could, make enough to start a next one, make enough to buy the next one. And then COVID. And so timing is everything. Um, I really feel like if I was in a different industry, the exponential growth I could have had, because martial arts is so niche, it's difficult sometimes.
Yeah, you
So,
can't switch to Zoom classes
right.
for martial arts.
Well, because when I had 11 schools, all my meetings were on Zoom. Okay. And I noticed my staff, I started teaching my staff like I teach students. Well, how do I taught a great student? I believe my gift that was given by God is I have the ability to see in the future vision. If you tell me kind of what you want to achieve, I somehow can manifest in my mind. I know how to backwards engineer that, especially for martial arts. I started doing that with my staff. I would really know what they're chasing in life, align them with the right position, and next thing you know, they were happier. They were making more money because everything's thriving. And I had to do that through Zoom. I was in at the time I was in 5 states, all right, with 11 schools. And so eventually got to 6 states, 3 time zones. So like from Portland, Oregon, I had a school, for example. And so when COVID happened, I was already doing Zoom classes with my staff and sometimes virtual classes for seminars for students. So the transition for us was nothing. And what
Hmm.
we did,
See,
I never,
I'm already casting limiting beliefs
yeah,
that
no,
you already
yeah.
overcame.
Well, so check this out. This was actually really awesome. I never furloughed staff, never let anybody go.
Good for you.
The only thing we did on pay is we basically paused any bonus structure
Hmm.
because we didn't know if we can create new income. Okay. That didn't even last long. After a few months, we figured out how to do it. But what we did is we said, hey, we know what people need more than ever is they need connection. And so we tripled the amount of classes we did and we
Hmm.
opened it up to the public school communities for free.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And then every school that didn't have the ability to do this, we let their students get on our classes. So we were teaching 3, 5, 10,000 people sometimes in a day. Okay.
Wow.
And then every night our staff would do an hour check-in, just our staff get on the call, right? And we would play games. Because we need a connection too.
Absolutely.
By the way, that's when I learned about bourbon. So like I never had a drink like that in my life. And you sit around, you start having it with the guys, like, all right, let's learn something new. Um, but and it was, I will tell you, it was a challenge for me because like I had 54 full-time people working for me.
Yeah.
They're all scared. Their families need income. No one knows certainty. And school owners were calling me to sell their school. So during this process, my best purchase is I bought a location for $50,000 on a owner finance deal over 2 years. So $2,000 a month for 24 months. That was doing less than $200,000. And the first year we took it from 200K to 1 million
Wow.
with the same 2 staff members that ran it before. So all upside. Did 1.4 the next year in that location. So that was a great, but the person panicked. They just wanted cash right now, and they didn't want the 50K up front because they were afraid they're going to spend it. They wanted
Yeah.
retirement. And so because I spoke to the world and to my peers what my goals were, at my exit, I was only operating 24 locations in 6 states.
Hmm.
uh, which is right when I was meeting you in 22.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so now that's a whole nother issue there. I didn't want to sell. I wasn't preparing to sell. I got kind of put in a position where it was kind of now or not.
Hmm.
And and I saw it as a blessing, as an opportunity to put in front of me that, you know what, this could be a great time in my life to check myself on, like, am I living to that best version of myself I want to be? Because at the time I was grinding
Yeah.
and investing in the business. And it got into a point that it was a lot of changes I would like to make, but it was kind of big to make those kind of changes.
Yeah.
And I want to know if my heart was still in it the same way. And and plus too, I started my school, the very first one, couldn't get a loan from the bank. I had no credit, didn't own anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the week I was trying to get a loan, I played a $50 online poker tournament, won some money there, played a private game tournament, won some money there. I take $50, turn it to 33,000 in 1 week, and started my school
Playing poker.
playing poker, and then sold it for a little over $5 million a couple years ago. So that $50 was a good turnaround, 14 years later.
Yeah.
Um, but so many lessons and so many missed opportunities that if I lived that same cycle again, knowing what I know now, not only would have we made more money and I would have been able to help more people. I think strategically, there's some schools I wouldn't have opened. Definitely some emotional decisions, how I was running the business wouldn't have happened.
Hmm.
Um, and the exciting part is it was still crazy. Did you watch Super Bowl this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay, it was not a great game, obviously. I mean,
As I
unless
say,
you're
unfortunately, I watched it. Yeah.
yeah, and so even if you're an Eagles fan, it wasn't a great game to watch. It was just like butt kicking. But the receiver on there, and I can't remember his name for the Eagles, he made a post, and this is resonates with me so much. He was like, I've spent the past couple of days trying to. I've never been a world champion of anything. I'm trying to, what it feels like. He's like, it just don't. It feels nothing like I thought. I enjoyed the work getting there,
Hmm.
and it's kind of what happened when I left my company. I was like, you know what? All the success that people kind of put on the nameplates and the trophies and the money generated and the stuff, the hard part of building a business and just the hard parts of staff, the good stories, the bad stories, things with students, not like I miss the hard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
joy, there's so much joy in that hard work of overcoming things you couldn't do before. And so building something and selling it, a lot of people dream of that. I've been able to do that. That's great. But I still feel this day like I haven't done anything. Like I
Yeah.
feel like so fresh and like eyes are open differently. I'm so excited for like the next version of what I become.
The sooner you figure out, like it's so cliche to say, but the sooner you figure out that it's about the journey, not the destination, the sooner you can solve for that problem. It's like a lot of life is just that. It's solving for the right problems. And you
Yeah.
and you think sometimes that you're solving for the right problem, and then you go down this path and you're optimizing for this result and you get the result and you're like, wait a second, I actually didn't really want that. And I talked to a lot of people on the show where like they sold their business and they're in this position now where they're like, I kind of regret selling it, man, because I miss running the business.
Yeah.
Like I was so focused on like we got the result, we got the big paycheck, we got the big payday, we exited, we mission accomplished. And
Right.
it's like, but was that the correct mission? You know?
Well, my question on that is this. Um, and obviously there's a lot to unpack there. I think there's something about we're always sold something in from the public to us. So like for years we were selling to kids, got to go to college, got to go to college. They're not saying that as much anymore now.
Right.
Um, but there's this trend right now in the entrepreneur world, build a business so you can sell it. Build a business so you can sell it. Why?
Yeah.
Like why would you go build something just to dump it?
Yeah.
And the reality is I do have some regrets on that because there's some circumstance at play that kind of took some of that my control away from me on that, my decision making. Um, and it ended up being the right decision because for sure for where the brand is now, like it was the right decision. However, it was not my intent to build something to sell it,
Mm.
which is why I'm going to be back in the space again and this time I don't have an intent to sell.
Yeah.
So I think we're preaching that to a lot of people, and there are some businesses that it's just a money play.
Sure. I was going to say it comes from that self-awareness and the clarity of having done something because I look at that like try to stay away from blanket advice, but typically for most people, if you're getting into a particular business just to be able to sell it, it's probably not going to be sold because your heart isn't in the business. And the thing is, some people are true passionate business operators.
Yes.
And for them, that might be a worthy result because they get a high off of selling a business and moving into a new model and figuring out that model and operating that business and optimizing it and then selling it and then doing a new business. Like, but those people are not like they're not passionate about martial arts. They're passionate
Right.
about business.
Business.
They're
Right.
passionate about the exit. So like for
Right.
them, it could work out, but that's not the case for other people. So it's like you have to take the time to get really introspective, get to a point where you have clarity around what is it that I'm really trying to optimize for? What's the why behind this mission, and then optimize for that solve.
And you're so right on that. I think there are those who are their game they play is they build and sell or acquire, that they're
Yep.
attaching it to something else,
And,
rolling
and
up.
if you look at their history, it's like not one business that they've ran has anything to do with the next business that they ran. Like there's no correlation between any of them except
Jesse
for their love
Itzler
of
is a great
business.
example. Jesse Itzler is a great example.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like but however, he was passionate about the company. He had some reason he wanted to be like when he got into Zico because he was running marathons. Like everything he did, there was a passion with it.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't start the company. He just took it to the next level. That's
Yeah.
his skill, right? For me, what I learned about myself, and this is like I said, introspective, like really knowing, is the, we have to do something with our time on earth. And I believe the more, and particularly, I'm sure look, I've not been a woman, so I can't speak for that, but I'm sure it's got to have some difference in us, man to woman. For men, if we don't have a purpose to our life, like we really don't want money, honestly, because we want to be able to take care of our people. We need money for that, maybe, and we want to
Right.
provide, but we want purpose more than anything.
Yep.
Have to have it. You take that away. That's why you see guys who are overweight, miserable, because they're working a job, punching the clock. They have no purpose, and
Yeah.
they've given up. They've given up.
Right.
Every time I see a guy overweight, I know he's depressed because I've been there. Right? When you met
Yeah.
me, I was depressed.
I was literally gonna say like when we like jumping on this call, I was gonna be like, bro, you look fantastic.
Yeah,
Like it looks
I'm
like you've
I'm
dropped
80
some
pounds
weight.
lighter than I was then.
How much?
80 pounds.
80 pounds.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. I was depressed.
Yeah.
I was stressed. I said COVID was a struggle because I took the brunt of the pain financially for my team. I didn't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I had the ability to control different things in my life to mitigate that.
Yeah.
But sun up to sundown, I've got families dependent upon me,
Right.
right? We had 3,600 kids in our program that were paying us that if they don't pay us, I lose my staff. I lose my staff. By the way, they lose their purpose.
Right. Right.
It breaks someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so it put a number on me. And then obviously selling the business was not an easy thing to go through. Um, you know, it is cool to see your bank account have this big jump. I remember exactly where I was at, scrolling, refreshing your account, it's a cool feeling. Um, but then after it literally doesn't last long because
Yeah.
like
Now what?
yeah, and purpose again, and then money is like it's a weird thing. It's not real. It's definitely not going to be real in the future. It's just going to be on your phone or not even on your phone, be plugged into our mind. I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's a weird system that we have to measure, things. It's a scorecard in business,
Yeah.
and there's no way to measure the things that we really would like to feel
Mm-hmm.
like in martial arts. You help a kid do something he's never done before, overcome something, and you've seen it in real time. Like it pays you so many dividends that you can't even calculate that. And that's the feeling that I like that dopamine and I want every day.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
different.
I was loving the conversation, man. We got to do a part two sometime. Now that you're in
So,
Vegas, we can meet up and have some coffee or something sometime. But I appreciate you for doing this, dude. Let's move into the last segment here. Just some
Kevin,
quick random questions, quick random answers. You ready?
let's do it.
What profession other than your own do you think that it'd be fun to master?
Oh man, other than my own, I mean, if I was talented enough to play NFL, would I love to do that? Or I'm sure at one time I'm gonna to dabble back in the poker world and do that now that I'm in Vegas anyway.
Yeah, there's unlimited opportunity now.
Right.
If you could sit on a park bench with someone, past or present, and chat for an hour, who would it be?
Past or present. I would love to sit next to Trump right now. I would. He's got something that I don't even know how he has that skin to handle what he does. I would like to ask him some questions for how he does that.
How do you like to learn best? Books, blogs, audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube videos, newsletters?
Besides all the above, I love studying someone, and the closer in proximity I can get to them. So if I can find a way just to shadow somebody for a day, that's to me the best thing.
What is your go-to pump up song?
Uh, it's I don't know if it's a I don't know if you consider a pump up song. I don't actually know the official title of the song, but it's Phil Collins.
Okay.
Um, it was a Miami Vice soundtrack song. Uh,
Okay.
I picture it's Mike Tyson's in the Vegas movie. What's it called? Hangover
Oh,
movie.
Hangover. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't remember the name of the song, but it's Phil
I can't
Collins.
remember the name of the song either, but we'll find it.
Yeah.
As we get everything
Really a
wrapped up
pump up
here.
song, but for someone it actually calms me. So if I'm gonna go fight or compete or something like that.
Oh, there you
So
go. Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Where can people go now at the end of this conversation, bro, to get more from you?
yeah, AaronHensley.com is just a personal website and has links to anything I'm doing. Team underscore Hensley on Instagram, either one of those. And yeah, absolutely love to
Team
connect.
at team underscore Hensley on Instagram or aaronhensley.com. That's Hensley. AaronHensley.com. Go check out some of the stuff that Aaron's got going on. If you're in Vegas, be on the lookout for some sort of martial arts studio coming out, I'm sure, pretty soon here. So
All right,
thank you guys
sir.
so much for tuning in. As always, remember, money only solves your money problems, and then you're left with the problems money can't solve. But it's a little bit easier to solve those problems with some money in the bank. So let's solve that one first here on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time. Peace out.